Hello everybody, it's Hannah Elsy here and I am a theatre producer, and I'm making this video in order to answer one of the most commonly asked questions that I get, which is, what does a producer actually do? So the role of a producer is one where you are in charge of the entire production. So it's like being the CEO of a company. You're raising the money, you're finding the theatre in which to put your production in. So you're working out the distribution of the production. You are choosing the director, you're contracting the cast, you're contracting all of the people who work backstage, the designer, any other creative team members. Perhaps you have a sound designer, a lighting designer, a video designer. You're responsible for all of that, and you're a linchpin that keeps the entire production moving. So the role of the producer is very creative. People think it's all about the money. Yes, it's the producer's job to raise the money, perhaps along with other co-producers, but it's a role that keeps the entire creative mechanism of the production all glued together. And you're also responsible for pushing the production forward. So you'll be in charge of press and marketing, and then what in business terms would be called business development. So finding new opportunities to generate more revenue for the production. So that might be touring it internationally. It might be setting up some awesome merchandise like t-shirts that people in the audience can buy on their way out. So this is a really elastic role and encompasses an awful lot of different elements of the show that you're in charge of. And that's what's really exciting about being a producer, because you get to work with everybody from all departments, and you really keep everything held together and moving forward. So what's the difference between a producer and a director? That's another question I get asked a lot. So again, the producer is very much a creative business role. The director is specifically in charge of making what is on stage, or if you're doing film or TV, what is on screen. They're there to make that look good. They're there to make the art the best it can possibly be. I always say the producer is in charge of the art because they're usually the person employing the director. So the director is reporting to them. They're in charge of the art and the business. And this is a really important role because think of all of the great things that you have seen that have come to you, perhaps through Netflix, or you've seen it advertised. You only know about these great bits of art because the producer is doing their job really well. So the next question I'm going to answer is, how does a producer make money? Now, this is also a really good question. So producers can be producers for hire. They can work for larger production companies, and they can work on contracts to deliver a specific film or TV or theatre project. That tends to be, some people are career line producers. That role tends to be more of a line producer. A producer, creative producer, somebody who is in charge of the production, as I spoke about earlier. They will make money by taking a fee out of the production for their work, and they will also, in all likelihood, have a stake or a percentage of ownership in the production, and therefore, as the show is seen by more people, or the show gets more views or gets more distribution, they will get income from that. Of course, they're usually managing that distribution and audience flow themselves because they're in charge of the business elements of the show. How do you become a producer? This is another question I get asked a lot. So you kind of simply have to start. You have to start by making something. You can work your way up as a line producer, perhaps in a production company or in a theatre, and then go independent. I didn't really do that. I went independent from the very start of my career when I started producing 6 years ago. And I had a show that I was working on straight out of university, and I put it on in a theatre and raised money to do it. It was very guerrilla, and it was a trial by fire, but I produced my first show. So you really have to think about what type of work you want to make, and then you need to start making it. And there's plenty of job boards out there, artsjobs.com, mandy.com, that will do call outs for producers. So if you want to get started and are still finding your feet, there are loads of producer jobs where you can go and get the feel for what it's all about. But in order to be a truly independent producer, you need to just start making stuff. There is line producing can give you a certain amount of experience, but it's no match for the true thing of being responsible for a production yourself. This is another question I get asked. Can the producer be the same person as the director or the writer or the actor? Yes, they absolutely can. And there's a long tradition of people being producer actors. Think of Laurence Olivier, people like Garrick, the old actor manager trope where we're talking about somebody who would perform in plays and they would star in the play and also fund it. You can also get producer directors. Think of somebody like Matthew Bourne, who directs his own shows and also runs his own theatre company, and producer, writer, performers. So people like Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who wrote and performed in and also worked on the production of Fleabag. So yes, you absolutely can do more than one thing. Producer versus production manager, what's the difference? This is another question I get asked. So the producer and the production manager are two very different and distinct roles. I've already explained to you what a producer does. The production manager differs because the production manager is in charge of all things technical, and this is a really crucial role, and you want to have a good production manager on your show because they are in charge of lighting, sound, and really realizing the vision of the designer, lighting, sound, costume, and backstage, and all things technical. Good production managers are worth their weight in gold. And okay, producer courses is another question. How do I learn to become a producer? How can I learn? Yeah, how can I learn to become a producer? I said that right. So you can go, if you're looking to be a theatre producer, you can go to Stage 1 New Producers. That's a 2-day intensive in how to learn to be a commercial producer in the West End. A really great course. I've done it and would highly recommend it. Also, China Plate's Optimists program, which is a course on producing in the subsidised sector in the UK. Now, a bit of a crash course. The commercial sector is the West End, commercial touring, and the subsidised sector is anything that's funded really by the Arts Council. And these two sectors in the UK overlap a lot. There's a lot of productions that start out in the subsidised sector and go to the commercial sector. Think of something like Matilda that started out in the publicly funded RSC and then went on to the West End and then Broadway and beyond. But I think people used to push me earlier in my career. Do you want to be a subsidised sector producer, Hannah, or do you want to be a commercial sector producer? And I always thought this was rather reductive and that I didn't really want to have to make a choice because I think there's value in learning both of those skills. So I have trained in both and it's serving me really well so far. So if you're interested in being a producer, I would highly recommend you get knowledge in both of the sectors. And that's the end of my video. So that's a crash course on what a producer does. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to subscribe to my channel, I'm sure I'll be putting out more videos about producing soon. And thank you so much for watching. My pleasure.